to Experience Oldsmar, a podcast created by and for those who love this special place. I'm your host, Deb Trelli, broadcasting from the top of Tampa Bay in beautiful downtown Oldsmar. As a space geek, I'm extremely honored to have a woman who is literally out of this world join us today. Nicole Stott is a veteran NASA astronaut with 2 space flights and 104 days living and working in space as a crew member on both the International Space Station and the Space Shuttle. This artistic astronaut brought a small watercolor kit on ISS Expedition 21, where she was the first person to paint with this medium in space. Her artistic works reflect a unique observation of our home planet, Earth. Nicole's continued artistic passion led her to become a founding director of the Space for Art Foundation, on which she serves as part of its mission crew, uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. Not one to slow down, she is also an accomplished author. Her first book, Back to Earth, What Life in Space Taught Me About Our Home Planet and Our Mission to Protect It, has sent Nicole spanning the globe to promote this wonderful piece of nonfiction. This Pinellas County resident was the 10th woman to perform a spacewalk. How cool is that? Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks. Great to be here.
No problem. So growing up in Clearwater, Florida, it must have been pretty awesome to be so close to the Kennedy Space Center. Was that always your dream as a child to become an astronaut?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I'm old enough to have watched that first moon landing and I think be in awe of that. I think even at 6 or 7, that's a really extraordinary thing to be going on. As I was growing up, my dad built and flew small airplanes out at Clearwater Air Park.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so had a lot of exposure to that, to this love of flying. And I grew up loving flying and wanting to know how airplanes fly. And my uncle, when you mentioned the Kennedy Space Center, my uncle worked over at Kennedy Space Center on the big boosters that were part of the Space Shuttle program. So there was always this connection there, and I think with flying, that was certainly a connection. But astronaut was not something I thought was really a possibility. It just seemed like one of those things that other special people need to do.
Yeah, I'm from Kettering, Ohio, and so that's the birthplace of the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
So aviation was huge growing up for me as well. So that's cool.
Yeah.
What life direction changed for this opportunity to happen for you then?
Well, I was going to university over at Embry-Riddle in Daytona
good
Beach.
School.
Yeah, which was studying aeronautical engineering, and that's just up the road from the Kennedy Space Center. And like I said, my uncle was working down at KSC, so we always got like the shuttle patches and everything. So I was always really aware of all that going on. And while I was at university studying how airplanes fly, I discovered, man, if you want to know how airplanes fly, why would you not want to know how rocket ships fly? And that led me, very fortunately, to a job at Kennedy Space Center as a NASA engineer on the Space Shuttle program. And that was in 1988, I guess. So that was at a time where NASA was getting back up and running with the Space Shuttle program after the Challenger accident. And so they were bringing in all kinds of new young engineers to work there. And I was really, really lucky to to work with not just great people, but also pretty much on every aspect of the Space Shuttle program, from out on the runway to in the Launch Control Center to right up close and personal in what we called the orbiter processing facility, which is like the big hangars where the orbiter, the like kind of airplane part of the Space Shuttle would roll in and get ready to fly. And I don't know, I just, during that time, discovered that astronauts, their job, 99.9% of their job is not flying in space. It's down here on Earth. And best I could tell, about 80% of it was a lot like what I was already doing as a NASA engineer. And that encouraged me to just speak with people I consider to be mentors, some of the folks that I worked with.
Good to have.
Yeah, absolutely, at Kennedy Space Center. And they really, they did nothing more than encourage me to pick up the pen and fill out the application.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty huge. It's like they were giving me permission, I think, to do what I had, the one thing in that whole process that I had control of, which was to fill out the application. And I know that I would not have done that without their encouragement. That simple encouragement. I would have convinced myself still, oh no, why would they want to pick me? I haven't done anything that, that'll make them want to pick me. And I mean, all that stuff where you can just talk yourself out of it, really incredible opportunities. And so very thankful to them.
Nice.
And I think that was the turning point for me, was just having this really simple encouragement that led me to take the one action that could put me in a place to even be considered.
Wow. So what type of training did you have to go through?
Well, once I was finally selected, which was in the year 2000, which seems so long ago.
Oh my gosh.
So we were the class of 2000, and we were the class before you names you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really kind of funny.
That's scary.
Yeah, well, it is, because there's usually this attempt to be a little bit disparaging or silly with the name that you give to the new class of astronauts. And our class name was the Bugs, which we loved because most bugs have wings, which means, you might have a chance to fly. What does every astronaut want to do? They want to fly in space. And it was much better than names like for classes before us, like escargot, the flying escargot, and maggots and sardines and, penguins and things like that. So we were really happy with our name, even though they thought they were being funny because the year 2000, remember there was this whole millennium bug thing and the zeros were going to, crash computers and life was going to end as we know it. And, but it turned out to be really good. But the training, it's a lot like going back to school in some ways. I mean, to learn all about the systems on the spacecraft that you're going to fly. Most of it across the board, whether you're learning how to do a spacewalk or how to fly the robotic arm, that big crane we use to move stuff around on the shuttle and the station, or even about the systems, most of it has in one way or another to do with how do you work as a good team.
Yeah.
And so we'll do things like go out to the Utah Canyon lands, 6 of us, and go hiking for 10 days and not see anybody else and have all these activities that we have to do. Or the best one was to go live underwater for 18 days off the coast of Key Largo.
Underwater?
Underwater.
You mean like you're in a scuba suit for 18 days?
Well, no, you do get in a scuba suit every day for 18 days, but there's this really amazing habitat called Aquarius. It's an undersea laboratory that's off the coast of Key Largo. It sits about 60 feet underwater. Only one like it in the world.
Is it a secret lab?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not a secret lab. It's not super top secret at all. And you can actually, Florida International University, I think, runs it now. And amazing place. The best analog to what it was like to live and work in space there. And a real extreme environment. You can't just go outside without special equipment. You can't just swim to the surface if something goes wrong, because your body's so saturated with nitrogen that you're likely to kill yourself if you do that. So you have to learn how, with your crew, to deal with anything that might go wrong. You have to learn how to deal with that together at 60 feet underwater.
Yeah.
Which is the same as what you have to do in space. You can't just hop in your spaceship and fly home. But every day is like training in the astronaut office. Yeah. Even if you're working as, I don't know, what we call Capcom, the capsule communicator, the person in mission control, that's talking to the crew.
Oh, yeah.
You're helping facilitate that mission, but you're also learning about what it's going to be like to live and work in space as a crew member yourself. And
so they rotate Capcom?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So, everything is about how you're going to work as a crew in space. And then, you got to learn about the science that's going on. And, of course, you're working with international crewmates, which means,
Russian?
For this, for the space station, we have 5 international partner agencies. So Russia, U.S., European, Japanese, and Canadian. And at any time on the space station, the crew of 6 or 7 people represents those 5 agencies, which are made up of over 15 countries. So it is an international partnership that's in work. And because of that, we all train in everybody's locations too. So for my first flight, which was going to be, several months on the space station, I spent 3 years in preparation traveling back and forth to all those countries.
Wow.
So over 50% of my time was spent out of the U.S. training.
Interesting.
Yeah. And isn't it cool? I mean, to think about it, for over 20 years, we've had this international partnership in space on this mechanical life support system, right? Living peacefully and successfully together there, with the work being all about improving life on Earth. I think it's just such a wonderful I don't know. It's just a wonderful program that everyone should know about. Yes, absolutely.
How old is this International Space Station? I have no clue.
So it's a little over 20 years now.
Okay.
And you can go online to the NASA site and you can watch kind of the buildup of it. They have this really cool time lapse of, all the modules being built up and
because it grows and grows.
Yeah. And now, I mean, the station now is, when you look at it, it looks like this ginormous masterpiece in space with its giant solar arrays and the modules that we live in and stuff. And if you were to lay it down on the ground, it would be bigger than a football field.
Oh, wow.
And the interior volume where we live as a crew, they kind of equate it to a large 6-bedroom house. And so throughout all of these modules with your crew of 6 or 7, you could go your separate ways and not see each other all day. And then it's still, people think, wow, that seems kind of small to live in for months at a time. But imagine, we're in this room here and we have to stay on the floor, right? But when you're on the International Space Station, it's microwave, so you can float. And so you can use all of the space in the module that you're in. So every wall, every ceiling, every floor, even though you have no sense of up or down, becomes a useful place to work and be. So you're not just stuck on the floor. So it feels much bigger than you would expect it to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you do any spacewalks?
I did one spacewalk while I was there, about 6.5 hours outside the space station. And there's some pictures from the spacewalk where I'm kind of hanging on by one hand at the end of the space station. And I remember my mom once saying, "That's why I was afraid. When you were in space, you're like, there should be a 2 hands on the space station rule at all times, And I'm like, I'm tethered. It's no problem. But yeah, that was.
Thank God you were tethered.
Yeah, and you go out on a spacewalk where you're out, the suit is really like your own personal spaceship, right? Yeah. It's got everything you need to live, survive, to communicate, and, to get around. And you are especially diligent and deliberate about putting your tether on.
Where you go. So I see you brought your flight jacket.
I do. Should I pick that up?
Sure.
Okay.
So our viewing audience can see it.
Okay, well... This is my blue flight jacket. We have for a lot of the training we do is flying in the T-38 jets, the trainer jets like the Air Force has. And so we have these blue flight suits. And, we have our mission patches on it. And over time, as you fly in space, you get other patches like this 100-day patch, which means I was in space for over 100 days. This Mach 25 patch, which means I went 25 times the speed of sound.
Oh my God.
Re-entry on the space shuttle. And,
it's hard to fathom.
Yeah, it really is. It's a nice, it was an operational thing that we had. You needed to wear these things to fly in the jets, but it's also really a nice kind of piece of memorabilia.
No doubt. I'd be very proud to wear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously,
people believe you're an astronaut when you wear that.
No, yeah, I would hope so.
They see you in the elevator afterwards and like, who are you? Put the blue flight jacket on, and they.
Wow. Well, obviously, to travel into space is a amazing adventure. So, what mission was your first trip?
So, my first trip to space was back in 2009, which I can't believe how long ago that was either, and that was a long duration space flight. So I flew up with a crew of STS-128. There's like mission numbers associated with each flight. So I flew with a shuttle crew on the Space Shuttle Discovery up to the space station. And I did my spacewalk with that crew while they were on board for about 2 weeks. And then they left, and I stayed on board station for a little over 3 months, and then came home on the Space Shuttle Atlantis. A little over 3 months later. And then my second flight was about a year and a half later on the final flight of Discovery.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we went back to station, but only for 2 weeks, which was not long enough. They had to pull my clawing hands off the hatch to get me back in the shuttle.
So what was it like to blast off into space?
Well, I think you get a real sense of what blasting off means for sure. The shuttle to get out
25.
of 25, and you go from zero, sitting peacefully, quietly on the pad for a couple hours, laying on your back, napping a little before, the countdown really gets going. And, so you go from this like peaceful, quiet 0, sitting on the launch pad, to 17,500 miles an hour and orbiting the planet in 8.5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's about 5 miles a second, I think.
Wow.
And so as you can imagine, it takes a lot of power, a lot of thrust to get off the Earth. And the shuttle, I think it was about 7 million pounds of thrust to get off the planet. And it's a reality check of what 7 million pounds of thrust really is. Like, you get kicked off the pad, you start shaking. I don't know, you can't believe I just remember thinking, man, I can't believe my body can shake like this.
How many G's? Is that what, I guess that's what they're called.
Yeah, it's only
0 G.
3 G's. And it's through your chest. So it's not that bad.
Oh, it's not face going
it's
back.
not like, face, like what you see in the movies in the centrifuge and stuff. And in airplanes, when you're getting that load, it's coming through your head and through your body this way. So it's a lot harder to deal with. On the shuttle, we're laying on our backs as we launch, so it's coming through your chest.
Okay.
And what it ends up feeling like really is just like 3 of you sitting on top of you.
Oh, that's not bad.
It really isn't bad. So you have to think a little bit about breathing, but it's not stressful.
Yeah.
But on top of that, for the first 2.5 minutes while those solid rocket boosters are lit, you are shaking.
I can imagine.
I mean, it's like, and I've watched the cockpit video and I'm like, that is not what I remember. That does not show how I felt like I was shaking. It's like you're jello inside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And your body just reacts, you high five your crew member next to you and you got this smile on your face and the woohoo, you don't want to be unprofessional, but you got to get the woohoo out, and you're just trying to monitor all the systems and make sure everything's going right. And
wow.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Well, you kind of explain what it was like to work on the ISS. So did you have any daily routines up there?
Well, the only daily routine was that every day was different. So we had kind of a set template for the day, like you're going to wake up at a certain time, breakfast, and getting ready for the day, and then your morning work time, lunch, kind of meals and chunks of the day. But everything that was in those chunks of the day was different every day.
Okay.
And one of the things I loved about the job was there was such an interesting mix of things going on. And the focus of our work for sure is the science that's going on there. I mean, it's a world-class laboratory up there. Pretty much any area of science you can imagine is being studied in one way or another there. Yeah. And I think what a lot of people don't know is I think everybody thinks about what we're doing in space like it's all about being in space and what are we going to do in space and how are we going to go further off the planet in space. And there is a lot of that, but everything about it is ultimately about how we improve life on Earth.
Yeah.
Through all of that science and stuff. And there's not many other places you can say are doing that kind of thing.
No doubt.
And then of course there's the fixing the toilet when the toilet needs to get fixed, and
you have toilets
maintenance
up there.
in general. There are too. Thank goodness there's toilets up there. Yeah. And, and outreach, speaking to folks on the ground about what we're doing and spacewalks and all kinds of things. But every day is different, a different mix of all of those kinds of things.
And they tweet from up there now too. So
they do tweet. They have live internet now, which we didn't have when I was there. And, but yeah, and I think there's more and more ways for people to really, experience what the astronauts are experiencing too through social media.
Oh, sure.
And a lot more of what NASA is doing that's sharing the story that's just gets better over time.
Storytelling.
Yep.
Very important. Yeah. So as I mentioned in your introduction, you were the first astronaut to bring a watercolor kit into space.
Yeah.
So can you explain how this one piece of art, and I think you might have brought one of them with you, ignited your passion for becoming an artistic astronaut?
And that the artistic astronaut thing, I think it's kind of funny, but that is something that kind of got laid on me, and I'm happy for it.
Brand that.
But yeah, no kidding. But what's really intriguing to me is that I think people think about astronauts or people in the science world or technology kind of world like that's all they are.
Yeah.
Like they're just technical, they're just scientific. When I can tell you the majority of my colleagues have some kind of creative, artistic outlet in one way or another, thing that they enjoy. Yeah. And from the beginning of time and space, earliest, I mean, even cosmonauts, art has been going on up there. Alexei Leonov brought colored pencils and sketched orbital sunrises and sunsets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And he was the commander of the Soyuz side of the Apollo-Soyuz mission, which is where the U.S. and the Soviets came together in space. And during that mission, he did like charcoal portraits of all of his crewmates.
Oh, wow.
Which is so cool. And there's been music in space since the beginning.
Yeah.
And, guitars and keyboards are on board the station now. And people have written poetry. My friend Karen quilted while she was in space.
You're kidding.
I mean, I think it's like putting the human in human spaceflight, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be even more important for that to happen. But yeah, so I brought up a watercolor kit with me. I painted one painting while I was there. This is it. It will look like a kindergartner did it. It's
You need to hold it up.
Okay, I'm holding it up.
There you go. Up more.
There it is.
Hey.
Woo, there it is, right there. Right.
Bonus.
Cover it. Yep.
Wow.
And so it's a painting of a little tiny chain of islands I saw when I was looking out the window one day, and it's based on my favorite picture that I took from space of that little chain of islands. And I don't know, it just reminded me like somebody had reached down with a paintbrush and painted a wave on the ocean.
Oh,
and
cool.
So I just used it as my inspiration. Of course, you can't paint sitting in front of the window, what you're seeing out because at 5 miles a second, it's gone before you can get the brush to the paper. But so I printed out a picture of it on scrap paper and painted from that and used little balls of water to dip my brush in. It was like one of definitely a personal highlight for me.
So are you making jewelry now too?
I do make jewelry based on some of the images that I took from space. Most of the time the inspiration for those is like Bahamas, the water in the Bahamas.
So blue.
And so I do that. And all of my like personal artwork is based on like scenes of Earth from space.
Okay.
Or even some of the spacecraft kinds of things.
Interesting. So is there a website about the foundation or the Space for Art Foundation that people can go to learn more?
Yeah, so that's spaceforartfoundation.org.
That's easy.
Yeah, and that's like my mission in life now is to work with this group. We are, as we like to say, uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. And kind of my path after retiring from NASA, where I wanted to use art to share. I was going to be painting anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, why not? Seems like art is just this universal communicator. You can reach audiences that might not even know there is a space station. And then whether they like your artwork or not, you can share that backstory, right? And that was really important to me. And then I got connected with some folks that were working with kids in pediatric cancer centers. We, long story short, went from working in one hospital with kids in Houston to now our last project, we've built an art spacesuit that's created from the artwork from at least one child in every country on the planet.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Pretty wild.
Speaking of art, the city is very honored to have you as its official narrator for its newest public art exhibit, Oldsmar in Orbit. So what can you tell us about this new installation?
Well, I can tell you that it's going to be a really special planet walk. I think that's the best way to describe it. That will take you on this journey through our solar system.
Wow.
It is to me, this is just a mind-boggling number to think about being able to scale a model of our solar system to, what is it? I've got to look. 4 billion miles to one, so around the city of Oldsmar. Each planet is going to have an informational sign with unique facts that are revealed along the way. And I think also a special component is that there's going to be augmented reality associated with each of these planets, and it's going to provide you with this, not just reading off a sign, but a 3D experience to go along with each planet. It's cool, I think, also, and this is something that I was thinking about for myself, is that while you're exploring, the solar system, you're also, I think, going to be learning, having a more up-close personal appreciation of Oldsmar as well. And I think that's a special point. The installation itself starts at R.E. Olds Park with the sun acting as the true center for it.
As it should be.
It should be, yes, when we think about our
Not the
solar
moon.
system and what we're rotating around and all of that, yeah. And so we'll start with the sun there. The planets Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars will be a few meters away. Jupiter and Saturn will be found nearby. I mean, this whole 4 billion to 1 scale.
Yeah.
Veterans Memorial Park will house the planet Uranus.
Okay.
And then the Oldsmar Public Library will feature the planet Neptune. And finally, Bicentennial Park is where you'll find Pluto
Aw.
orbiting near the tennis courts.
We all love Pluto.
We do love Pluto. I'm so thankful that Pluto is included.
And I'm told this will be a linear layout. So it's kind of the solar system. So it's not a straight line. It's pretty much spread out.
Yeah, I think what's unique about it is that it's not going to just be this straight line of planets like we tend to see, you know, when you look at, you know, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, you see this kind of straight line representation of it. When I think even through school, we know that, you know, the planets are never really all in line. And so around the city, it's going to be a really cool kind of way to experience that as well, to get this sense that you're not just walking in a straight line.
Wonderful. And rumor has it this will be the second augmented reality piece in the United States, right here in Oldsmar.
Yeah, I think so. Which will make it a really unique experience.
Yeah.
And I think even though there might be some other augmented reality experience somewhere like this, it's going to be different.
Sure.
It's going to have its own little twist, which I think, you know, people will really enjoy.
Nice. Is there a website people can go to learn more about Oldsmar in Orbit?
Yeah, and you can visit oldsmarinorbit.com.
Oh, that's
pretty simple
easy.
too, isn't it? It's going to be the whole experience, I think, is just going to be a wonderful way for you to be in awe of how much space there is in space.
Hey, good point.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's time for our lightning round. So, Nicole, what was your favorite thing to see in space besides Earth?
Oh, besides Earth, everything else. Yeah, that's something you just can't pick.
No.
But Earth would be it. If
Yeah,
I
it
had to
would
pick
be.
one. Yeah,
Kind of right there.
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
Did you see anything unidentified while in orbit?
I did. Yes,
What'd you see?
it was later identified.
Aw.
It was a shooting star.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was really, really weird to be looking down towards Earth and see a shooting star. And when I saw it, at first I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? I don't think I thought UFO, and I just thought, wow, I don't know what that is. Nobody ever told me about this. And then my crewmates, oh, it's like a shooting star. And I remember thinking, man, that was so beautiful. You know, you want to see another one,
imagine.
make a wish, that kind of thing, just like when you're looking up from Earth here. And then I remember thinking, yeah, I'm really glad I saw that. It means it didn't hit my spaceship. Which is
No
a good
doubt.
thing too. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And then finally, Tang or orange juice?
Definitely orange juice.
Oh,
Yeah.
new school, not old. Bummer.
I know.
I grew up on Tang, so
Well,
good.
me too.
the astronaut
but
drink,
We didn't
yeah.
have to drink it in space.
No, good. That's a good thing. So, well, thank you, Nicole, for being such an out-of-this-world guest on our podcast.
My pleasure.
So be sure to follow and like the City of Oldsmar on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And to find our list of segments, visit experienceoldsmar.com. Special thanks to our awesome engineer, Mark McGinley. Yay! So I'm your host, Deb Vitrelli. Until next time, I invite you to check out all the great things you can do to truly experience Oldsmar.